There's something about gas stations at night, strangers drifting in and out, the steady hum of the coolers, the flicker of the dying fluorescent lights. It's the kind of place where the line between normal and something straight out of a horror movie becomes razor thin. And these entries don't just cross that line, they shatter it. A few years back when I worked at a gas station, I remember it was a Sunday night, which was always the slowest night of the week. I was about 4 hours into my shift, and I had only waited on about 5 or 6 customers. On nights like this, where we didn't have a cop standing by, we had to lock the doors and serve customers through a little window and a drop box on the side. The gas station is connected to a little McDonald's, and since it was one of the few that wasn't 24 hours, they were already closed and everyone had gone home. Point is, I was completely alone. A light fog had drifted in and coated the street and the parking lot. This gas station is in a small, somewhat isolated country town. I was watching something on my phone and it was connected to the McDonald's Wi-Fi. Suddenly, the power went out. The store nor the McDonald's had a backup generator. Every light in the gas station, including the street lamps outside, were out. The entire surrounding area was plunged into total darkness. The only illumination was coming from my phone screen. The video I had been watching on YouTube stopped as well since the Wi-Fi went out. There was no lights, no sound, with the only exception of the cooler motors whining down. Every now and then, the cooler doors would creak. Have you ever been in such a silence that your ears ring? It was like I was in a Silent Hill game or something. Every step I took to go outside seemed deafeningly loud. I could feel the blood pounding in my ears as I made my way towards the exit to unlock the doors, step outside, and have a smoke. And to have a reason to be outside. Once I was outside, I could see a little better from the ambient lighting of the moon slightly drifting behind the clouds. I remember thinking to myself how quiet it was. There were no cars in the distance on the road, no bugs or crickets, no frogs, just the ambience of the air, and it felt thick. Now, I'm not scared of the dark, or being alone, or being robbed for that matter, nothing like that, but there was just something about it, this unsettling, isolated feeling, like the shadows were swallowing me alive. I lit my cigarette and leaned against the side of the building, trying to shake off the feeling crawling up my spine. There's kind of a silence that doesn't feel empty. It feels like it's listening, like the world has stopped just for you, and that's when I heard it. At first, I thought it was my imagination, a soft tapping sound coming from somewhere near the McDonald's drive-thru, just tap, 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 slow, uneven. I turned towards it, but the fog was thicker that way, swallowing the whole side of the building. I took a few steps closer with my phone flashlight cutting a weak cone of light through the gray. There was nobody there, just an empty ordering kiosk, the once glowing red numbers of the menu board now dark and dead, but the sound kept going, faint and deliberate. Tap, tap, tap. It had to have been coming from the inside of the McDonald's. The same McDonald's that was closed and everyone had gone home hours ago. Cupping my hands against the glass door, I could just barely make out movement, something shifting behind the counter, like someone was standing too still. I froze, not really sure what I was seeing. My first thought was maybe one of the workers had come back for something, but then my eyes adjusted a little more. It wasn't a person, not exactly. It was more the outline of someone standing behind the counter, but wrong somehow. Too tall, too thin, the head tilted at a strange angle, like it was watching me. Then the tapping stopped. The shape, the person, slowly stepped back into the kitchen area until I couldn't see it anymore. The power flickered back on a few seconds later, lights buzzing, the ice machine humming, everything snapped back to life like nothing had happened. I bolted back to the gas station and sat behind the counter to wait out the rest of my shift. The next morning, when my shift ended, I decided to grab breakfast from the McDonald's before heading home. One of the morning crew, a woman I'd seen 100 times but never really talked to, was working the counter. While she was ringing up my order, I casually brought up how the power had gone out and tried to make small talk, asking if it had messed up any of their equipment. She kind of laughed and said the weirdest thing, that apparently when they opened up that morning, they found the drive-thru window wide open. For a second, I just froze. I felt my stomach drop and I must have looked like I'd seen a ghost, because she kind of paused mid-sentence, My eyes went wide before I even realized it. I didn't say much after that. I just nodded, took my food, and left. I still think about that night sometimes. I'm not sure who or what I saw. Maybe it was just someone being opportunistic, someone in the right place at the right time, someone playing a harmless prank, or it could have been something so much worse. I'll never truly know just how close I came to crossing that line. My first job ever was when I was working at a gas station when I was 15. It was an old building off the beaten path in the Midwest. It had leaking ceilings, dirt caked on everything, dust and mold everywhere. I worked with a bunch of people who were clearly meth heads, rotten teeth, twitchy, stealing things, and even someone who was convicted of manslaughter, but that's a story for another day. One part of the job was that at the end of the night, you have to take out the trash to the dumpster. You know the scene from SpongeBob when he has to take the trash out on the graveyard shift? Yeah, that was basically my exact experience. The dumpster was about 50 yards from the back door of the gas station, illuminated only by a single light hanging over the dumpster. Trust me when I tell you, it was dark. One night, I'm taking out the trash, and as I throw the bag in, I hear someone quietly say, "Hey, boy." I turn around and don't see anything but a few semi-trucks with their lights off. I start to think it's my imagination, so I turn back to head to the store. Then I hear it again, a little louder this time, say, "Psst, hey, boy." Thinking it was someone who needed something, I responded this time. "Hello? Can I help you?" "Come here," the voice hissed. I still can't see anyone because it's so dark, and my gut is screaming, hell no. So I don't say anything, I just start walking back towards the building. At this point, my hair is standing straight up on the back of my neck and my body is covered in goosebumps. I start jogging back to the gas station when I hear the man's deep voice shout at the top of his lungs, "Hey, boy." I sprint back through the back door of the gas station and right out the front. Luckily, my mother had already been there waiting for me. I got in the front seat trying to play it cool, but she could definitely tell that something was up. She didn't say anything, but I could tell. I had made up my mind on the ride home that night that I was quitting, so the next morning when I show up to talk to my manager, I'm greeted by police already there talking to him. It turns out that someone broke in and robbed the place about 30 minutes after everyone left. When I told the police my story, they mentioned how it seemed to fit a couple other gas station robberies in the area. They usually take a hostage and rob the store at gunpoint. To this day, I still think about this. I can't imagine what would have happened if I didn't listen to my gut. 5 years later, and I still have nightmares about that night. Was I about to be the next hostage? When I was working my way through college, I used to work nights at a gas station. I was pretty used to working nights, so this didn't really bother me too much. The only uncomfortable thing was that this gas station was on the side of a hardly used highway in northern New York. That being said, my imagination would play all kinds of tricks on me at night when I was working alone. The way the shifts would work is that I would be alone for the last 2 hours of my shift after the subway person had gone home. So for those 2 hours, I would try to pass the time by cleaning and listening to music. I didn't really get many customers, but when I did, they were always a bit off. Most notably was the man that used to come in every night and try to buy a Subway sandwich. He would always wait until after the Subway had closed for the night, and he would just stand there in front of the counter. I'd walk over and ask him if there's anything he would like, and he would just say, "I'm hungry, I would like a sandwich please." I would tell him that the Subway was closed, and he wouldn't react to it at all. He would just stand there. He would wait there, swaying back and forth for about 30 minutes. At that point, he would tell me to have a nice night and leave. I never once saw his car. He would just walk out the back and start walking down the highway. Now, this wouldn't be odd if it were a rare occasion, but this happened every night that I worked. I tried asking the manager if anyone else had ever mentioned the guy, but she had never heard of him. I asked her if I could get another person to close with me, but we were short-staffed as it was, and we didn't have anyone to cover. Plus, there weren't really enough customers to justify the extra person. I tried telling her that this guy made me nervous, but she just told me to man up and try to deal with him the next time I saw him. The following day, I had to close again, and sure enough, I see the man walk in. He walks up to the Subway counter and waits for an employee. I ask him what he wants, and he says that he wants a sandwich. I decide that I've had enough of this guy coming in and asking for this, so I decide to just give the guy the sandwich that he wants. He won't specify what he wants, so I just pick something random from the menu. I tell him it's going to be $6 for the sandwich, but instead he grabs the bag and runs away. As I'm leaving that night, I see the same guy in the tree line waving at me. I'm freaked out by this, naturally, but I wave back hoping he's just homeless and was happy to have the sandwich. I hop in my car and lock the doors. That was the last time I ever saw the man in the woods, and boy, was I grateful for it. A few years later, as I was doing some research on the area, I found out that the store that I had worked at, one of the workers had been hurt when he was left alone on the site. The station was set to open the following week, and there was a long weekend before that. Now, this place was built in the 80s, long before cell phones were very common. He had fallen and broken both of his legs. He laid there by himself all weekend and died due to exposure. Now, when I said that this was in the middle of nowhere, I meant it. When I worked there, it was pretty much in the middle of the woods when it was built. The story didn't really resonate with me that much until I saw a picture of the guy. He looked a hell of a lot like the man who plagued my night shifts at that gas station. I continued to work there for a few years after the incident, but ever since giving the man that damn sandwich, I've never seen him again.